A young girl would be stolen from her home by a monster in the night. Hello, true crimerers. This is the case of Danielle Van Dam. Viewer discretion is advised. Real quick before we get started, of course, hello, my name is Mike. I tell true crime stories here on YouTube. I tell 3 of them every week, Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, every week. So please subscribe if you're into that kind of thing and you're a bunch of cuckoo-cachoo wackadoos like the rest of us. I'm probably more known over on TikTok, where I have about 3 million or so followers. I'm also called Making a True Crimerer over there as well. So please feel free to follow me there. It'll be up here at some point, a link at the beginning and at the end, and then I will also have it linked in the link tree of the description of this video below, where I also have my Discord server link. Be over the age of 18 if you're going to join it. I have my merch link to purchase shirts like this. We do ship all over the entirety of the world. And then lastly, if there's a case you want me to cover, just email me, makingatruecrimerertwo.com. That will be also listed below. Just email me the name of the person, where it happened, when it happened. I will add it to my list, which the list you can actually see in my link tree to see if the name is already on there or not. I pick my cases at random. I will cover it eventually. I just can't promise you when. But let's get into today's case. Danielle Nicole Van Dam was born on September 22nd, 1994, and she was actually born in Texas. She would be one of 3 kids. She did have 2 brothers. I really don't have a lot of information about her, however, and that's mainly because she really wasn't given much time to live. So she was described, though, as a very spunky young girl, a lot of personality. Her mom said that her and Danielle were very, very similar in the sense that they were both social butterflies, and she loved her brothers, she loved her family, and she enjoyed being a kid. But she would only be granted 7 years of life. So the Van Dam family lived in the Sabre Springs neighborhood of San Diego, California. It was February 1st, 2002. Brenda Van Dam, who is Danielle's mom, she and a few friends had gone out to a local restaurant called Dad's, which is located in Poway, California. Damon, who is Danielle's dad, would stay at home with the kids. According to Damon, around 10:30 p.m. or so, he put Danielle to bed, and he would go back out to the couch where he fell asleep. Damon was awoken sometime approximately 2 o'clock in the morning when Brenda, came home that night with her friends. And apparently her and the friends and Damon, they just kind of hung out and chatted for about 30 minutes or so in the house. Brenda had noticed, however, when she got home that one of the security alarm lights was flashing, and there was a side door for the garage that was open. But I guess they didn't really think anything of it. Then the friends left, and then Damon and Brenda would go to bed, and they just assumed, all the kids were asleep in their beds. Damon had woken up probably an hour or so after this, and he also again noticed that the alarm system was flashing, and now he noticed, I guess he hadn't noticed earlier that evening, that the sliding glass door was partially open. He closed it, and then he just went back to bed. The next morning when everybody woke up, everybody came out except for 7-year-old Danielle. They couldn't find her anywhere in the house. She wasn't in her room. She wasn't outside in the backyard. She wasn't anywhere. So they immediately went into panic mode, and at 9:39 a.m., they called police. Immediately, police arrived, and they just start their search. They are canvassing the entire neighborhood. They are pounding on doors. They are searching under every nook and cranny, under every rock, in every bush, under every tree. They are searching for this little girl who just seemed to vanish. Police at this time were interviewing, every single neighbor that they could interview. One of the neighbors that they intended to interview was a man named David Westerfield, but when they knocked on his door, he wasn't home. The 49-year-old man who was a self-employed engineer, he was also a divorced father of 2 basically adult children. They were in college at this point. He lived just 2 houses away, and he also owned what I guess they described as a luxury motorhome. So basically, once they finally track him down, he says on that Saturday morning, so the Saturday morning they would have woken up and reported Danielle missing, he had already loaded up his RV and he set out. He actually remembers leaving the home at 9:50 a.m., which is literally just 11 minutes after the Van Dams called the police. He said that entire day he was driving around in his RV around the desert near the beach. He was staying at a particular campground, and that was actually verified by several people who said, yep, we definitely saw him at the campground. We saw him at this desert area. We saw him at this beach area. He gave this kind of overly complicated itinerary to police about his whereabouts the entire day that Saturday. Just that he had gone back and forth between his home and the desert or the beach and to a campground where he bought a 2-day, I guess, a sleeping pass or whatever, camping pass there. And he just kept putting himself in so many different locations, and a lot of them were confirmed by people, like I said. But his story just seems so much. One thing that police discovered that he did not tell them was that in all of these movements, he had actually also gone to a dry cleaner's where he dropped off, I guess, a comforter, some pillows, pillowcases. Police would end up putting him under a 24-hour surveillance as of February 4th. And in that time, they basically saw him thoroughly cleaning his RV out, which isn't abnormal. I mean, people do that. By February 5th, he became essentially just a person of interest because his story about where his whereabouts seems so convoluted. The fact that he was thoroughly cleaning everything, the fact that he left out this whole dry cleaning business, police were able to impound his RV and his SUV, his car. As they're doing that, they finally bring him in for actual questioning at the police station, and he says, well, I was actually at the same bar that night that Brenda was at. And actually Brenda said, yeah, he was there for some time, but he did leave before she did. So after they get into his camper and they search it from top to bottom, and they find 2 tiny blood stains on, I guess, a jacket that he had inside his RV. They also find other small blood stains just in the RV itself, and that blood would come back as to being the same blood type as Danielle Van Dam. On his comforter, which had not been thoroughly dry cleaned, apparently, police found several strands of hair. The forensics determined they were dog hairs. And when they compared the dog hairs to the Van Dam's dog, it was a damn near identical match. I don't think they could say with absolute certainty that it was the exact same dog, but it was visually identical. Same exact hair. They then find other strands of hair that are deemed to be the hair of coming from a person. And it was not his hair. It was hair that was, again, very visually identical to Danielle Van Dam's hair. So at this point, he is arrested, and he is charged with kidnapping, and he's charged with murder, despite not having any kind of, human remains found. His lawyer and the prosecutor are basically in the process at that point of working out a deal for him to essentially confess and reveal the location of Danielle's body in return for life in prison without parole. This was all spoken between him, his lawyer, and the prosecutor. But literally within a 10 or 15 minute window of time as they're doing this, they get some sudden news. There was, I guess, a search and rescue place called the Laura Recovery Center, and they established the Danielle Recovery Center as basically a task force in terms of trying to find this little girl. Well, on February 27th, 2 searchers would find the nude and decomposed body of a young girl. And again, this is happening literally, literally within the same minutes of them also negotiating a plea deal for David Westerfield. I guess the body is on a trail in Dehesa, California, Dehesa. They were searching that particular trail because they had already known that David Westerfield was at that point a potential suspect, and that he traveled that particular road, that area, frequently in his RV. So that's why they searched there, and that's how they found her body, just basically dumped on the side of the road, as if this person was just garbage, you know. They could not determine, because her body had been very decomposed, they could not determine how this person died. They also could not determine if this individual was sexually assaulted or not. But through dental records, they would confirm that this was, in fact, the body of 7-year-old Danielle Van Dam. And therefore, the plea deal that they were negotiating at the time her body was found was now off. It was done. They weren't going to be doing it anymore because they had found a body that they believed may have been hers, and then it was confirmed to be hers. They then find more evidence in his trailer, including Danielle's fingerprints are in his trailer. They search his home, and on his computer is an excessive amount of child pornography. He tries to say, well, that's actually my 18-year-old son. He was probably looking that up. The son was questioned, and he would testify. He goes, that's not mine. I was not looking that up. Police believed it, and they just believed that that was what David Westerfield was typically looking up on his computer. His defense team would say that David Westerfield was improperly interrogated for an excessive amount of time, basically wasn't given food and beverage and all that. But the thing is they're now trying to spin it as if he is not guilty. They're trying to spin it as if he is not the one responsible. But again, he was literally prepared to reveal the location of her body. He was going to make a plea deal to get life in prison without parole. That was on the table. They were working it out. Then her body was found before he could reveal where she was. You can't sit here and say you didn't do it when you were literally about to say where she was. Not to mention the fact that literally so much evidence was in his trailer, and he would have stated that, well, she had never been in my trailer before. Great, that's actually great, because we have her blood in there, we have her hair, we have hair from the dog, the family's dog, in your trailer. Then on her body, they found particular fibers that they would end up matching to fibers from, I think, either his RV or his home. One thing they did not find was they did not find any physical evidence of David Westerfield in the Van Dam home, meaning they did not have any fingerprints on any of the doors, especially the ones that had been opened. They didn't find any fingerprints, hair, DNA, anything of his inside Danielle's bedroom. And so the prosecution could not show how he broke into the house, but they didn't need to. That actually wasn't something they were required to do. All they were required to do was prove that he actually kidnapped her, not exactly how he did it. He just obviously snuck into the house because the door, they would later find out, was unlocked. I think the garage door itself was unlocked. It wasn't forced open. The family just left it unlocked, and that was it. David Westerfield's attorneys, again, still trying to go with this concept of, well, suddenly he didn't do it even though he was going to reveal where her body was. They tried to put blame on the parents because I guess the parents had this allegedly risque lifestyle where they were swingers and, you know, they did inappropriate things, I guess. And so that means that they welcomed some stranger into their home that night and they're the ones who did something. But first of all, there wasn't any evidence of anyone else in terms of like another person going in and taking her. So just while there was no evidence of David Westerfield going into that house, there was no evidence of anyone else that wasn't a part of the family being in that house. So whoever broke in, David Westerfield, that's who it was, didn't leave any traces of themselves behind. So this whole concept of like, well, the parents were bad and they let some strangers in for sexual gross stuff. And so it's that, but there was no evidence of that. So they did have the evidence of all of the physical traces of, in his trailer and in his home. Evidence of Danielle Van Dam being in his trailer and in his home, including blood. So David Westerfield would then be found guilty by the jury. And during the penalty phase, apparently his niece said that many, many, many years prior, when she was like 6 or 7 years old, she would sleep over at their house because with, his younger daughter. And one night she woke up, and this is disturbing as hell. She woke up to find her uncle with his finger rubbing her teeth. So she bit his finger and then told her parents. And then apparently it was just sort of, there was like an argument about it, but apparently it just sort of fizzed out and people they forgot about it. He says he had said back when he was being questioned about it back when the incident happened, that he was just trying to comfort her. That's the weirdest way of comforting someone I've ever heard, rubbing their teeth, and it's a child. So because of the overwhelming physical evidence of Danielle being in his trailer and in his home, they did determine that in the penalty phase, as they were trying to figure out what the penalty was going to be, they did determine that he broke into the Van Dam home, or just walked in, stole her, then brought her likely to his home, where he more than likely, they could not say for sure, but more than likely sexually assaulted her and then murdered her, possibly in the house or possibly in his RV. And so you got kidnapping, you got sexual assault, you got potential torture, and then you got murder, all of a 7-year-old child. So he was sentenced to death. Now he is currently still on death row because there is or was a moratorium on the death sentence in California. So as of right now, they're not executing anyone. So he is literally just sitting on death row at San Quentin State Prison indefinitely until either they bring back the death penalty or he just dies in prison. But he's never getting out of prison. The family did sue David Westerfield for wrongful death. They settled out of court for an undisclosed amount of money. They also were awarded $400,000 from a few different insurance companies that insured David Westerfield's RV and his home. But the point of the matter is he can never lay a finger on another child again. He cannot hurt or kill anyone ever again. In the years since, there has been on an overpass of Interstate 8 near El Cajon, in the general area as to where Danielle was found, they would name it the Danielle Van Dam Memorial Overpass. And it was, close by where she was found. The family then formed the Danielle Legacy Foundation, which is all about basically protecting children and putting the safety of children first. A monster just walked into their neighbor's home in the dead of night, stole a child, stole her innocence, and stole her life. And for what reason? Because he is sick. The sad thing is that he still gets to live. He is still alive. He still gets to breathe air. Danielle Van Dam does not. But one day he will get what's coming to him, and Danielle Van Dam and her family will get and have gotten the justice they all rightfully deserve. But that is it for this case. True crime or Rooney Dooney Dingleberry Dongs. I hope you found it interesting. I did. And didn't. I did. Well, you're not supposed... Interesting is a weird word to say. I hope you found it... I don't know. Mike, what are you saying? I don't know. This is all just so grim and sad. And this is awkward. Hello? Yes, I'm trying to get them to leave, but they won't leave. They're just sitting here staring at me like a bunch of creeper dupers. They're just staring at me. They're watching me. They're judging me. They're calling me stupid. Right now. They're saying I'm stupid. That's rude. Yes, I can hear them. I can hear the people in the future. What's that? There's no one on the... Oh, you're right. There is no one I'm talking to on the phone. You're right. So why am I still doing it? I don't know. I need to go take my medication now. Okay, so I'll see you guys later.